Porch lights still on, echoes of Elizabethton. There's something about the way the light fades over Elizabethton, Tennessee that can bring a man right back to his boyhood, whether he wants to go or not. It's not just the sunset, though the skies here paint pictures that would make any artist weep. It's the quality of the light itself, an amber, golden hue that spills over the rolling hills, softening the edges of the world and making every oak leaf seem to shimmer with a memory of its own. It's a kind of light you don't find anywhere else, a light that seems to carry the weight of all the lives lived beneath it, of all the laughter and tears that have echoed through the valleys. It wraps around you like a familiar quilt, warm and comforting, pulling you into a timeless embrace. I guess you could say it lives in the whisper of the breeze through the old oaks, those silent giants that have stood firm for generations.
This shirt I'm wearing, it stands for something real. It's for those who remember America's proud days, built on hard work, unity, and respect for the flag. We've got styles for men, women, and even the kids. Great quality, timeless spirit. Just point your camera at the QR code and wear what America stands for.
Their leaves rustling ancient secrets that only the wind can understand. The breeze carries the scent of wet earth after a summer rain, the sweet, pungent aroma of pine, and sometimes the faint hint of wood smoke from a distant fireplace, even in the height of summer. It's a smell that grounds you, connecting you to the very soil beneath your feet. And it lives in how the gravel pops and crunches under the weight of truck tires rolling up the driveway. A sound as familiar as the beat of my own heart. Every stone seems to tell a story. Every passing tire leaves an invisible mark on time, a faint echo of journeys taken and returns made. The screen door still creaks the same way it did 30 years ago, a high-pitched, melancholic lament that is music to my ears. It's the sound of arrival, the sound of home. It's the prelude to comfort, the signal that you've crossed a threshold into a place where you are known and loved. And when Mama's cornbread is fresh on the table, the steam rising in fragrant spirals that fill the kitchen with the promise of comfort, steaming beside a bowl of slow-cooked beans with a piece of ham hock and a pitcher of ice-cold sweet tea, with fresh mint leaves from the garden floating on the surface. Well, it feels like time didn't move at all. It's as if I could reach out and touch the past, feel the warmth of her hand in mine, hear her soft chuckle as she served me a second helping. The aroma alone is a time machine, transporting me back to simpler days, to a table surrounded by family, where worries were few and bellies were full. If this kind of story brings something back to your heart, a lump in your throat or a smile to your lips, go ahead and subscribe to PorchTales, give it a like, and share it with someone who still remembers how it used to be. Someone who understands that true wealth isn't in what you accumulate, but in the memories you hold, the bonds you forge, and the quiet simplicity of moments shared. It's for those who cherish the echoes of a life well lived, built on foundations of love and honest labor. I was born in that house at the edge of town, a white wooden structure with a wide front porch that stretched across its entire length, where the Rio Watauga winds its way lazily past the hills, its waters reflecting the ever-changing sky. The river was a constant presence, a silver ribbon winding through our lives, marking the seasons with its ebb and flow. The nights there were filled with the incessant, hypnotic hum of cicadas, a chorus of millions of tiny musicians that lulled the town to sleep. It was a sound that seeped into your soul, a constant reminder of the pulsating life that surrounded us, a natural lullaby that spoke of endless summer nights. Daddy was a mechanic, his hands always stained with grease, but surprisingly gentle when he helped me fix my bicycle or taught me how to tie a fishing knot. He had a characteristic smell of motor oil and sweat, a scent that for me was the very smell of security and hard work. He spent hours in the garage, the radio tuned to some country music station, and the clang of wrenches and hammers was the soundtrack of my childhood. He could do anything with an engine, and I watched him with awe, believing he was a magician who could bring dead machines back to life. He taught me the value of a dollar earned, the satisfaction of a job well done, and the importance of looking a man in the eye. Mama, on the other hand, kept a house in the garden, and her domain was a kingdom of order and beauty. Her garden was an explosion of colors and aromas during spring and summer. Plump red tomatoes, crisp green beans, bright bell peppers, and a profusion of flowers that attracted bees and butterflies. She talked to her plants as if they were old friends, and I swear they responded, thriving under her gentle touch. Her house was always immaculate, but not in a cold, untouchable way. It was a lived-in home, filled with laughter, the smell of baking bread, and the echo of her soft hymns as she worked. She was the anchor of our family, the quiet strength that held us all together, her love a constant, unwavering presence. And us kids, there were 3 of us, myself and my 2 younger sisters, Sarah and Emily. We ran wild like deer in the fields behind the barn. Our knees were always scraped, our hair tangled with leaves and twigs, and our clothes invariably dirty. But we were free. Our days were an endless series of adventures, exploring every corner of the property, mapping out the secret paths that only we knew. Sarah, the eldest, was the natural leader, always with a plan, whether it was to build the biggest dam in the creek or to scale the tallest tree in the woods. Emily, the youngest, was the dreamer, with her head in the clouds and a knack for finding the most hidden 4-leaf clovers. The 3 of us were a unit, a small army against boredom, and our bonds were forged in whispered secrets under the covers and in muffled giggles that made our parents wonder what mischief we were brewing. We picked blackberries till our hands were stained purple, the thorns scratching our arms, but the sweetness of the berries was worth every scratch. We'd come home with buckets full, and Mama would turn them into pies, jams, and cobblers that were the very taste of summer. We built forts out of hay bales in the barn, dark, dusty labyrinths that were our castles and spaceships, defending them from imaginary foes with sticks as swords. And we fished off the old wooden dock that stretched out over the Watauga with nothing but twine, rusty hooks, and worms we dug up from the garden. We didn't catch many fish, but the hours spent there, with the warm sun on our backs and the gentle sound of the water, were as precious as any treasure. It was there we learned patience, the art of quiet observation, and the simple joy of being present. Summers were golden, hot, dusty, buzzing with the life of insects, laughter, and the promise of endless days. The air shimmered over the asphalt of the road, and the drone of lawnmowers was a constant, soothing hum in the background. Nights were long and lazy, filled with the glow of fireflies and the croaking of frogs in the marsh. It was a time of innocence and discovery, where the world seemed vast and full of possibilities, and the only concern was whether we'd have enough time for all our adventures before the sun went down. Every day was a new chapter, every sunset a promise of another golden dawn. Old Mr. Carter lived next door, in a house that seemed as ancient and rooted as the oaks that surrounded it. He was a man of few words, but every word he uttered was heavy with the wisdom of a lifetime. He had a voice like worn leather, rough and deep, and hands strong and callous from a lifetime of pulling engines apart and putting them back together. He was the kind of man who could fix anything, from a broken tractor to a broken heart, and he did it with a quietness and a dignity that were almost reverent. He moved with a deliberate slowness, as if each step was a meditation, each action a testament to years of experience. He never said much unless it mattered, but when he spoke, we listened. His blue eyes, crinkled at the corners from years of laughter and squinting into the sun, seemed to see right through you to the truth that lay hidden. I remember once, after my first heartbreak, I was about 15, and the world seemed to have crumbled because a girl at school didn't notice me. I was sitting on the tailgate of Daddy's truck, kicking at the gravel, feeling like the most miserable man in the world. Mr. Carter walked up, silent as a shadow, and sat down beside me. He didn't say anything for a long time, just watched the sun set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. Then he finally spoke, his voice a raspy murmur. Some pain's gotta run its course, son, like a storm over the ridge. It comes, does its damage, and then it passes. But that don't mean you stop planting. I didn't understand then. I was too steeped in my own misery to see the metaphor. But now, with the perspective of years and my own storms weathered, I understand. He was talking about resilience, about the need to keep going, to find hope even when the sky is dark. He was talking about life, about the cyclical nature of sorrow and renewal, and the enduring power of hope. Then there was Miss Annie at the diner, the Elizabethton Eats, a place that smelled of fresh coffee, sizzling bacon, and the sweet warmth of fruit pies. She was an institution, a woman with a warm smile and gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She'd been pouring coffee since before I was born, and somehow always knew when a man needed a slice of peach or apple pie without him having to ask. She'd call you hon and mean it, not just as a formality. She'd top off your coffee mug before you even realized it was empty, and slide a plate of perfectly cooked eggs and bacon across the counter, as if she were feeding her own kin. She knew everyone's names, their stories, their troubles, and their joys. The diner wasn't just a place to eat. It was the heart of the town, and Miss Annie was its steady beat, a comforting presence in a world that was always changing. We had summer storms that came down fierce and fast, turning day into night in a matter of minutes. The thunder that made the windows rattle in their frames, a primal roar that seemed to come from the very core of the earth. The lightning that cracked open open the sky in blinding white flashes, illuminating the landscape for an instant before plunging it back into darkness. Daddy, with his practical wisdom, always unplugged the TV and all the electronics, fearing a lightning strike. And we kids would huddle together in the living room, watching the rain sheet down in thick curtains across the porch, turning the outside world into a watery blur. Mama would light candles, their flames dancing and casting flickering shadows on the walls, and hum soft hymns, her voice a calming balm against the roar of the storm. There was something safe about it, something almost sacred. It was as if the storm couldn't touch us as long as we were together, nestled in the warmth and flickering light of our own bubble of security. Those moments, with the scent of candle wax and Mama's voice, are some of my most vivid memories of comfort and family unity, a testament to the simple power of togetherness in the face of nature's fury. The 4th of July in Elizabethton was something else. It wasn't just a holiday. It was an event, a celebration that brought the entire town together. Main Street would be draped in American flags, each one fluttering proudly in the summer breeze. The parade was the highlight of the day. Kids with red, white, and blue popsicles melting in their hands, their mouths stained with patriotic colors. War veterans, some in folding chairs, their hats pressed against their chests in respect as the flag passed, their eyes filled with memories only they could see, and old folks waving from their porches, their voices hoarse from cheering and clapping. There was the high school band playing off-key marches, antique cars polished to a gleam, and the local firefighters showing off their bright red truck. That kind of pride, that sense of community and belonging, it sticks with you. It becomes a part of who you are, a silent foundation that supports you even when you're far away, a reminder of the shared history and values that bind a community. The creek, Stony Creek, was our kingdom. It was a place of magic and mystery, a refuge from the adult world. We spent hours there, skipping rocks that ricocheted off the water's surface, sending ripples in perfect circles. We caught minnows in glass jars, watching their tiny fins flutter frantically before releasing them back into their habitat. We dared each other to swing from the rope tide to the giant sycamore that leaned over the water, dropping with a splash and a yell into the cool, refreshing water. The creek was where we learned about nature, about friendship, and about the limits of our own courage. It was our classroom, our playground, our sanctuary. And when the day burned down, the sun setting and painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, we'd sit in the grass, our bare feet in the cool water, listening to the chorus of crickets and talking about everything and nothing. We'd talk about our dreams, our fears, our plans for the future, the small and large things that filled our young minds. Those moments of quiet camaraderie were as formative as any lesson in school, shaping our understanding of the world and our place within it. Mama passed a few years back. It was cancer, swift and cruel, that took her away before we had time to properly say goodbye. The house grew quiet after she was gone, a silence that seemed to scream her absence. Daddy followed soon after, his heart simply giving out, unable to bear life without his companion of so many years. The pain was overwhelming, an emptiness that seemed impossible to fill. And though the house still stands and the garden still blooms in spring, with the flowers Mama planted returning year after year, it's quieter now. The echo of their laughter and songs has faded, replaced by a stillness that is both comforting and haunting. The porch swing moves gently in the breeze, a silent testament to the lives once lived there. Sometimes I sit there alone in the same wooden rocker Daddy used on the porch and watch the fireflies emerge like sparks from a memory. They blink and dance in the twilight, each one a tiny light in the dark, a reminder that life goes on, even after loss. It's then that it hits me how full my life has been. Not always easy, far from it. There have been challenges, sorrows, moments of doubt and despair. But through it all, it has been full of love, the unconditional love of my parents, the love of my sisters, the love of my own family that I built, full of loss, the sharp ache that teaches you to appreciate what you have, and full of grace, the unexpected kindness of strangers, the beauty of nature, the resilience of the human spirit. It's a tapestry woven with threads of joy and sorrow, light and shadow, all contributing to the rich pattern of existence. If this story stirred something in your heart, if it made you remember a place or people who shaped who you are, don't forget to subscribe to PorchTales, leave a like, and share it with someone who knows that life was never about the noise, but the quiet, honest moments in between. The moments that seep into your soul and become a part of your very being, defining you in ways you might not even realize. Because Elizabethton still lives in me. It lives in the way I say grace before dinner, a habit Mama taught me and one I've passed on to my own children. It lives in the smell of fresh-cut grass on a summer day, a scent that instantly transports me back to the fields behind the barn. It lives in the echo of my kids' laughter in the same fields where I once ran, their young, carefree voices filling the air with the same joy I felt. And maybe, just maybe, it lives in you too. That connection to roots, to simplicity, to the truth of what truly matters. A silent whisper from a place that shaped you. So come on back anytime. The porch light's still on. The life in Elizabethton wasn't just about the grand events or the wisdom of the elders. It was woven into the fabric of ordinary days, in the small routines, and the unexpected discoveries. My sisters, Sarah and Emily, were my constant companions in adventure. Sarah, the eldest, was the natural leader, always with a plan, whether it was to build the biggest dam in the creek or to scale the tallest tree in the woods. Emily, the youngest, was the dreamer, with her head in the clouds and a knack for finding the most hidden four-leaf clovers. The three of us were a unit, a small army against boredom, and our bonds were forged in whispered secrets under the covers and in muffled giggles that made our parents wonder what mischief we were brewing. Beyond my sisters, there was a core group of friends, a motley crew of neighborhood kids who formed our own small tribe. There was Billy, the daredevil, always pushing the limits, whether it was jumping off the highest rock into the swimming hole or riding his bike down the steepest hill with no hands. And there was Maria, quiet and observant, who could spot a rare bird or a hidden wildflower from a mile away, teaching us to see the beauty in the small details of the natural world. We spent countless hours exploring the woods, building elaborate tree houses that were more imagination than lumber, and staging epic battles with imaginary foes, our shouts echoing through the trees. Our days were a blur of scraped knees, triumphant discoveries, and the kind of deep, unspoken understanding that only childhood friends share. We were inseparable, bound by shared geography and an endless capacity for play. I remember one particular summer when we decided we would map every inch of our property and the adjacent forest. Armed with a worn notebook and crayon stubs, we spent days exploring, naming every notable tree, every rock formation, every tiny stream that snaked through the undergrowth. We found a secret clearing hidden by a dense tangle of bushes that became our headquarters. There, we built a crude lean-to with fallen branches and leaves, and spent hours planning our expeditions and sharing invented stories. It was our sanctuary, a place where imagination reigned supreme and the outside world couldn't reach us. We drew maps with fantastical creatures and hidden treasures, believing with all our hearts that our small corner of the world held endless wonders. The seasons in Elizabethton had their own distinct personalities. Summer, as I've mentioned, was an explosion of life and heat, but autumn brought a magical transformation. The hills ignited with shades of red, orange, and gold, a color palette so vibrant it seemed unreal, as if the very landscape was on fire. The air grew crisp and cool, carrying the scent of distant bonfires and the sweet aroma of ripe apples. It was harvest time, and Mama's kitchen would fill with the smell of pumpkin pies and warm apple cider. We'd spend afternoons jumping into giant piles of raked leaves, the satisfying crunch under our feet a symphony of autumn. And of course, Halloween was a community event, with Main Street transforming into a parade of costumes and the promise of bags full of candy. The air would hum with excitement, the chill of the evening adding to the thrill of trick-or-treating under the glow of porch lights. Winter was a time of quiet and introspection. Snow would fall softly, blanketing the landscape in a silent, pristine white. Days were shorter and nights longer, filled with the cozy glow of the fireplace and the scent of burning wood. Daddy would teach us how to track animals in the snow, pointing out the delicate prints of deer and the hopping trails of rabbits. We'd build giant snowmen with carrot noses and coal eyes, and engage in epic snowball fights that ended with laughter and red noses. Christmas mornings were the most magical, with the fresh pine scent of a tree in the living room and the anticipation of presents wrapped under its twinkling lights. Mama always made a special breakfast with pancakes and maple syrup, and the house would be filled with warmth and joy, a haven against the cold outside. Spring was the rebirth, the promise of a new beginning. The thaw brought the creek to life, its waters rushing faster, and the first green shoots would begin to appear in Mama's garden. Birds returned, their songs filling the air with a joyful melody. It was planting time to prepare the earth for the summer's bounty. And I'd help Daddy plow the small field behind the barn, the smell of freshly turned earth an intoxicating perfume. Flowers would burst forth in a riot of color, and the world seemed to awaken from a long sleep, vibrant and full of renewed energy. The air was alive with the buzzing of bees and the sweet scent of blossoms, a symphony of nature's awakening. School in Elizabethton was more than just a place to learn. It was an extension of the community. Our teachers were neighbors, the parents of our friends, and they knew us not just as students, but as individuals with our quirks and talents. Mrs. Henderson, our 5th grade teacher, had a way of making history come alive, transporting us to ancient civilizations with her vivid storytelling. And Mr. Johnson, the basketball coach, taught us about teamwork and perseverance, not just on the court, but in life, emphasizing that character was as important as skill. The pep rallies in the gym, the Friday night basketball games under the bright lights, the science fairs where we displayed our clumsy inventions. All of it was part of the tapestry of our childhood, building a shared history and a sense of collective identity. The church, First Baptist Church of Elizabethton, was also a pillar of our lives. It wasn't just a place to go on Sundays. It was a hub of activity, of community gatherings, of mutual support. Pastor Miller's sermons were simple yet profound, often drawing parallels between biblical stories and the everyday struggles and triumphs of our small town. The songs of the choir filled this sanctuary with a beauty that touched the soul, a harmony that resonated deep within. The potluck dinners, the summer picnics by the lake, the Bible study groups, all of it connected us to a larger network of faith and community. It was where we learned about compassion, about service, about the importance of looking out for one another, lessons that transcended the walls of the church and shaped our moral compass. As I grew older, Elizabethton began to feel a little small. Adolescence brought with it a restlessness, a yearning to see the world beyond the familiar hills. I dreamed of big cities, of distant universities, of a life that seemed more exciting and full of possibilities. The quiet rhythms of Elizabethton, once so comforting, now felt a bit stifling. I'd spend hours poring over maps, imagining myself in bustling metropolises, far from the familiar gravel roads and the hums.
Atenção, jogadores do Brasil. A nova
silent wisdom never tried to hold me back. They knew that life was about growing and exploring, and that some lessons could only be learned away from home. They offered quiet encouragement, their eyes holding a mixture of pride and a touch of wistful understanding. When it came time for college, I moved to a large city hundreds of miles from Elizabethton. The culture shock was immense. The constant noise, the hurried pace of people, the anonymity of the crowd, the lack of familiar faces, everything was different. I missed the smell of pine and wet earth, the hum of the cicadas, the crunch of gravel under tires. I missed Miss Annie and her pies, the silent wisdom of Mr. Carter. I missed the quietness of the nights and the way the stars seemed brighter in the Elizabethton sky, unmarred by the city's light pollution. The concrete canyons felt cold and impersonal compared to the rolling hills and winding river of home. I found myself longing for the simple, honest moments that defined my upbringing, the genuine connections that seemed so rare in this new, fast-paced world. I came home for breaks, and each time the car turned onto the familiar road, a sigh of relief escaped my lips. The lights still faded the same way, the screen door still creaked, and the smell of cornbread still filled the kitchen. Elizabethton was a safe harbor, a constant reminder of who I was and where I came from. It was during these returns that I began to truly appreciate what I had left behind, the depth of the roots I had tried to ignore. The city offered excitement, but Elizabethton offered something deeper, belonging. After college, I worked in a few different cities, building my career, but Elizabethton always called me back. It wasn't a loud, urgent call, but a persistent whisper, like the breeze through the oaks, a gentle tug on my heartstrings. I found myself comparing every new place to Elizabethton, and every comparison left me wanting. The people weren't as genuine. The pace was too frantic. The sense of community was missing. I realized that the excitement I sought was fleeting, while the quiet strength of home was enduring. Eventually, I decided it was time to come home for good. Not to my childhood house, which was now empty, but to the town that shaped me. I wanted to raise my own children with the same values, the same experiences, the same sense of community that I had had. I wanted them to know the feeling of belonging to a place, of being part of something larger than themselves. Today, my own children run through the same field behind the barn, their knees scraped, their laughter echoing in the air. They fish in Stony Creek, though now with more modern fishing rods, and build forts from fallen branches. I take them to Elizabethton Eats for a slice of pie from Miss Annie, who, though older, is still there with the same smile and the same haunt. I take them to the 4th of July parade, and I see their eyes light up with the same wonder I felt. I tell them stories of my own childhood, of the adventures we had, of the lessons learned, and I see a flicker of recognition in their eyes, a connection to a past that is now becoming their present. I catch myself using the same phrases Daddy used, humming the same songs Mama sang. I teach them about the importance of planting, even when pain seems overwhelming, a lesson I learned from Mr. Carter. I teach them to appreciate the quiet, the beauty of simple things, the strength of community. I show them the secret clearing in the woods, now overgrown, but still holding the magic of childhood dreams. I tell them about the fireflies, and how they are like sparks from a memory, reminding us of the light that always remains. The house of my childhood, though empty, still stands there. I drive by it sometimes, and the porch light seems to be always on, a silent invitation to the memories it holds. And when I sit on my own porch in the rocker, watching the fireflies dance in the twilight, I feel the presence of all those who came before me. I feel the presence of Elizabethton in every fiber of my being. It's not just a town, it's a feeling, a way of life. It's the certainty that no matter how far you go or how hard life becomes, there is a place where you always belong, where the porch light is always on, waiting for you. It's the understanding that life is not measured by grand achievements, but by the quiet, honest moments in between, by the shared laughter, the wiped tears, the lessons learned in the shade of old oaks, and by the banks of winding creeks. It's the enduring legacy of a place that shaped my soul and continues to shape the souls of my children. My return to Elizabethton wasn't just a personal homecoming. It was a re-engagement with the very fabric of the community. I found a job at the local high school, teaching history, a subject that now resonated with me on a deeply personal level. I could weave the stories of Elizabethton's past into the broader narratives of American history, making the lessons tangible and real for my students. I coached the junior varsity basketball team, stepping into the shoes of Mr. Johnson, and found immense satisfaction in teaching young men not just the game, but the values of discipline, teamwork, and resilience. I saw echoes of Billy, Maria, and my own younger self in their eager faces, their triumphs, and their frustrations. I married a local girl, Sarah Beth, who had grown up just a few miles down the road. Her family had been in Elizabethton for generations, and her roots ran as deep as mine. Our wedding was held at the First Baptist Church, the same church where I had attended Sunday school, and the reception was a joyous potluck affair at the community hall, filled with familiar faces and the comforting sounds of bluegrass music. We built our home on a small plot of land not far from my childhood house, a place where our own children could grow up with the same sense of freedom and connection to the land. Raising my kids in Elizabethton has been one of the greatest joys of my life. My son, Thomas, has his grandfather's knack for tinkering, always taking things apart to see how they work. My daughter, Lily, has Mama's green thumb, her small hands carefully tending to her own patch in the garden. I watch them explore the woods, their voices echoing with the same unbridled joy that once filled those trees when my sisters and I played there. I take them fishing in Stony Creek, teaching them the patience and quiet observation that the old doc taught me. We still visit Miss Annie at Elizabethton Eats, and she still calls them Han, her eyes twinkling with the wisdom of a lifetime spent serving the community. She's a living bridge to the past, a reminder of the continuity of life in this town. The town itself has changed, of course. There's a new grocery store, a few more modern businesses have popped up, and some of the old storefronts on Main Street have been renovated. But the heart of Elizabethton remains the same. The Watauga River still flows, the cicadas still hum on summer nights, and the old oaks still stand sentinel. The sense of community, the willingness to help a neighbor, the quiet pride in our heritage, these things are woven into the very fabric of the place, passed down from one generation to the next, like the stories told on a porch swing. I've become one of those old folks waving from the porch during the 4th 4th of July parade, my heart swelling with pride as I watched the children with their red, white, and blue popsicles. I've seen my former students grow up, start families of their own, and many of them, like me, have chosen to stay or return to Elizabethton. There's a magnetic pull to this place, a quiet understanding that some things are more valuable than the fleeting promises of the big city. The porch tales I share now are not just my own. They're the collective stories of this town, the anecdotes passed down through generations, the wisdom gleaned from lives lived simply and honestly. They're the stories of resilience in the face of hardship, of joy in the smallest moments, of the enduring power of human connection. I've learned that these stories are not just entertainment. They're the threads that bind us, the lessons that guide us, the legacy we leave behind. Sometimes on a quiet evening, after the kids are asleep and Sarah Beth is reading inside, I'll sit on our porch swing. The air is cool, the stars are bright, and the only sounds are the distant croaking of frogs and the gentle creak of the swing. I'll think about Mama and Daddy, about Mr. Carter and Miss Annie, about all the lives that have touched mine in this small corner of the world. I'll think about the storms weathered, the seeds planted, the harvests reaped, and I'll feel a profound sense of gratitude. It's a gratitude for the simple things, the taste of cornbread, the smell of fresh-cut grass, the sound of laughter. It's a gratitude for the hard-won lessons, for the quiet moments of grace, for the unwavering love that has always surrounded me. It's a gratitude for Elizabethton itself, not just as a place on a map, but as a living, breathing entity that has shaped my soul and continues to nurture my spirit. The light fades, painting the sky in a final, glorious display of color. The fireflies begin their silent dance, Lee. Fireflies begin their silent dance, little sparks of memory flickering in the growing darkness. And I know, with a certainty that settles deep in my bones, that this is where I belong. This is home, and the porch light, always on, is not just a beacon for those returning, but a symbol of the enduring warmth, welcome, and unwavering spirit of Elizabethton. It's a light that shines not just for me, but for anyone who seeks a place where the heart can truly rest, where life is lived in its most honest, unvarnished form. And that is the story of Elizabethton and how it lives in me. And maybe, just maybe, it lives in you too.